Why do some women become unforgettable, while others are so easily replaced? What if I told you there's a subtle, almost imperceptible energetic difference that makes certain women forever etched in a man's memory? Would you believe it? There's a specific quality that some women naturally radiate, and when a man experiences it, he simply can't erase you from his mind. Not because you chased him, not because you bent over backwards to please him, but because you awakened something within him that he didn't even know existed. I know exactly how it feels to question whether you made any impact on his life. Maybe you've spent sleepless nights wondering if he thinks about you, if he misses you, or if he's already moved on as if you never existed. That anguish of not knowing what impact you had is one of the quietest pains a woman can carry. And no, you're not being dramatic or exaggerating. This need to know we were significant is deeply human and part of our most ancient feminine nature. The doubt gnaws from the inside like a wound that won't heal. You keep replaying conversations, analyzing gestures, trying to decipher signals that may not even be there. You wonder if you were enough, if you said the right words, if you should have acted differently. That anxiety of not knowing if you left a lasting mark is one of the most subtle forms of emotional suffering there is. What you're about to discover doesn't come from any pickup artist's handbook or superficial game of seduction. It comes from something much deeper, from understanding how the male psyche works when it encounters a woman who carries something different, something magnetic that cannot be copied or faked. One of the greatest scholars of the human mind discovered that there is a specific quality, almost an energetic field, that certain women naturally radiate. This energy awakens a fascination in the male unconscious that cannot be rationally explained, but that marks him forever. The secret to becoming unforgettable isn't about what you do for him, but what you do for yourself. There's a fundamental energetic difference between a woman who seeks validation and one who simply is. And that difference is instantly perceived by the male subconscious, even if he can't explain what he feels or why he's so intensely drawn to you. The unforgettable woman cultivates what we might call a magnetic presence, a quality of being so complete within herself that she doesn't need to fill awkward silences, doesn't need to constantly justify herself, doesn't need to prove her worth at every moment. She simply inhabits her own space with a naturalness that's both mysterious and inviting. It's as if she has access to a source of energy that doesn't depend on external approval or the validation of others. Think of a woman you admire, someone who seems to have this natural magnetic quality. Do you notice how she doesn't force conversations when silence falls? How she doesn't shrink herself in front of others or try to take up less space? How she can be comfortable in her own quiet without feeling the need to fill it with empty words? That's exactly the energy we're exploring, an energy that can't be imitated or faked because it comes from an authentic place of self-care, self-knowledge, and profound self-love. A man, subconsciously, recognizes this energy because it awakens something primal and archetypal within him, the desire to win what can't be easily obtained. We're not talking about manipulative games or calculated seduction strategies. We're talking about a woman who knows her own intrinsic worth and doesn't bargain it away for scraps of attention. A woman who has a rich, interesting, and meaningful life even when she's alone. A woman who doesn't place all her happiness, self-esteem, and sense of purpose in the hands of another person. When you develop this essential quality, something interesting and powerful happens naturally. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop trying to convince someone of your worth and begin to inspire genuine recognition. And it's precisely this deep energetic shift that creates a permanent and lasting impression on the male mind. He can't forget you, because you represent something he rarely encounters in the world, a woman who is truly whole, complete within herself. Psychology teaches us that the experiences that mark us most deeply are those that challenge our established expectations, making us question patterns we thought were fixed. And most men are conditioned and accustomed to women who diminish themselves, constantly adapting to others' expectations, doing everything to please and avoid conflict, even if it means sacrificing important parts of themselves. When a man encounters a woman who doesn't follow this predictable pattern, who doesn't lose herself completely in him, but also doesn't reject or treat him coldly, something profound awakens in his subconscious. It's as if a dormant part of his psyche awakens to a possibility he didn't even know existed. This experience creates what psychologists call positive cognitive dissonance, when our mind needs to reorganize its categories to accommodate a new reality. There's a fascinating concept in psychology about how our mind records and preserves significant emotional memories. The experiences that are forever etched into our consciousness are those that make us feel something completely new, something we can't easily categorize based on our past experiences. That's why you remember with so much more clarity and intensity those moments when you felt truly seen at your core, genuinely understood in your complexity, or respectfully challenged to grow and expand. The Unforgettable Woman creates exactly this kind of transformative experience in a man's life. She isn't predictable or linear, not because she's complicated, dramatic, or inconsistent, but because she has genuine depth. She has multiple layers of personality and experience. She has a rich and complex inner life that isn't completely available or accessible at first. She shares herself gradually, like someone revealing a valuable treasure only to those who consistently prove worthy of receiving it. This creates what students of the human mind call positive fixation, when someone becomes mentally connected to and absorbed by an experience that was simultaneously satisfying and incomplete. It's like starting to read an absolutely captivating book and having to stop in the middle of the most interesting part of the story. Your mind naturally returns to that narrative, wanting to know more, wanting to complete what was left open, wanting to explore the mysteries that haven't yet been revealed. The woman who becomes truly unforgettable intuitively masters the subtle art of being completely present without being intrusive or suffocating, of being caring and affectionate without being needy or dependent, of being genuinely interested without being anxious or controlling. She creates a safe emotional space where a man feels free to be authentic, but also inspired and challenged to grow and become the best version of himself. How does this magnetic quality translate into everyday life? First and foremost, it comes from having an intimate and honest relationship with yourself. The Unforgettable Woman has meaningful personal rituals, activities she does purely for her own pleasure and growth, passions and interests that don't necessarily involve anyone else. She might spend an entire afternoon reading a book that fascinates her, taking a peaceful walk in nature, or simply contemplating life and reflecting on her dreams without feeling like she's wasting time or should be doing something more productive or socially acceptable. When she's with him, she's truly present, body, mind, and spirit. She isn't mentally checking her phone every 5 minutes, anxiously planning the next date, or consumed with worries about where the relationship is going. She's simply there, authentically enjoying the moment for what it is, allowing the experience to unfold naturally. And that rare quality of total presence is magnetic because it's so incredibly rare in today's world. She also knows how to create and maintain mystery in a completely natural and genuine way. She doesn't tell her entire life story on the first deep conversation. She isn't available 24/7 as if she doesn't have a life of her own. She has her own important commitments, her own passionate interests, her own meaningful routine that doesn't revolve solely around him or the relationship. When he reaches out and she's unavailable because she's doing something important for her personal growth, it's not perceived as rejection. It's seen as genuine allure. The Unforgettable Woman has also developed the wisdom to listen deeply to her own body and her own emotions without judgment. If something doesn't feel right energetically, she doesn't ignore the signs. If she needs space to process her feelings, she asks for it respectfully. If she needs affection and closeness, she communicates her needs clearly, but always in a way that honors both her own needs and his, creating a dynamic of mutual respect. And perhaps the most important and liberating aspect, she doesn't try to be perfect or flawless. She's deeply human, has emotionally difficult days, has natural insecurities, has moments of authentic vulnerability, but she handles all these normal human experiences in a way that doesn't automatically place the emotional responsibility on his shoulders. She takes care of herself, welcomes herself with compassion, asks for help when she truly needs it, but always maintaining her emotional autonomy and her personal responsibility for her own well-being. The biggest hurdle to developing that magnetic quality is the deep-seated primal fear that so many of us carry. The fear that if you stop trying so hard to please, He'll just walk away and disappear from your life. The fear that if you show him you have a rich and independent life of your own, he'll feel rejected or unnecessary. The fear that if you're not always completely available and accessible, he'll easily find someone else who's more willing to lose themselves in him. These fears are deeply understandable and valid because they're born from old emotional wounds and deeply ingrained social conditioning. Maybe you learned very early on that you needed to shrink yourself and take up less space to be accepted and loved. Perhaps you grew up believing that your worth as a woman was directly related to how much you could please, serve, and satisfy others, especially men. Maybe you've been in past relationships where you actually were replaced by someone more convenient or less demanding. But here's the truth that hurts deeply, but also sets you completely free. If a man only stays with you because you systematically erase yourself, he's not really connecting with you. He's connecting with a diminished, impoverished, and artificial version of who you truly are. And that will never, ever result in true, deep, or lasting love. You might be able to keep someone by your side that way for a while, but you'll never be able to keep someone who truly loves and values you in your entirety. Another significant obstacle is the constant social and cultural pressure. We live in a society that still teaches women to be always available, always understanding, always flexible and adaptable. That makes us believe that having our own legitimate needs is unacceptable selfishness. That convinces us that natural mystery is calculated manipulation, and breaking those deep-seated conditionings requires genuine courage and unwavering determination. There's also the obstacle of control anxiety. When you start practicing being more authentic, more centered in yourself, more true to your needs, you might feel intense initial anxiety. It's completely normal and expected. You're stepping out of the illusory control zone, where you tried to control how he felt about you through manipulative behaviors, and stepping into the zone of confident surrender, where you allow things to flow naturally and reveal who you truly are, accepting that it may or may not be compatible with what he's looking for. The path to becoming truly unforgettable begins with a fundamental and non-negotiable inner decision, the conscious choice to become truly interesting and fascinating to yourself first. When you develop a rich, deep, and loving relationship with yourself, when you actively cultivate your own authentic interests, when you learn to genuinely enjoy your own company without the need for constant external distraction, something in your essential energy shifts dramatically. Start by intentionally creating sacred moments that are exclusively yours. It could be a contemplative morning walk, a cup of tea sipped in meditative silence, a few minutes of mindful breathing, or simply sitting comfortably and watching the clouds drift by. The important thing is to gradually cultivate the precious ability to be with yourself without needing constant distraction, entertainment, or external validation. Consciously develop your own authentic interests, passions, and curiosities. This doesn't mean you have to completely reinvent yourself or become a different person overnight. It means honestly discovering what truly sparks your natural curiosity, what makes you feel genuinely alive and connected, what allows you to connect with your deepest essence. When you have genuine passions and real interests, you naturally become more interesting and magnetic because you have authentic experiences and unique perspectives to share. Courageously practice the art of authentic and respectful communication. Instead of always automatically agreeing or always trying to maintain superficial harmony at any cost, allow yourself to have your own opinions. Ask interesting and thought-provoking questions. Share unique perspectives that are born from your personal experience. Don't be controversial just to grab attention, but also don't be invisible or inexpressive for fear of disturbing or displeasing others. Gradually learn to establish gentle but absolutely firm boundaries. This means knowing how to say no with elegance when something doesn't authentically resonate with you, knowing how to respectfully ask for space when you need to process emotions, knowing how to communicate your legitimate needs without guilt or excessive justification. Healthy boundaries aren't impenetrable walls. They're smart bridges that allow for healthier, more balanced, and genuinely respectful relationships. And perhaps the most important and transformative aspect, actively develop your ancestral feminine intuition. Learn to deeply trust that wise inner voice that tells you when something is energetically right or wrong, when someone is genuine or putting on an act, when a situation deserves your precious emotional investment. or when it's better to preserve your energy for something more aligned with your values. As you bravely embark on this journey to become unforgettable, something absolutely beautiful and transformative happens. You don't just become significant to men, you become profoundly significant to yourself. You gradually rediscover who you truly are when you're not desperately trying to be what someone wants you to be or what you imagine will please them. The transformation begins subtly, yet powerfully. You realize you're no longer compulsively checking your phone, anxiously awaiting a message. You notice you can be genuinely comfortable in the natural silences of conversations without feeling the need to fill them with empty words. You see that you're no longer obsessively interpreting every gesture, word, or expression, desperately trying to decipher what he's feeling or thinking about you. With time and consistent practice, you develop an authentic confidence that doesn't depend on constant external validation. A solid confidence that comes from intimately knowing your own worth, your own unique qualities, your own inner strength. And this genuine confidence is like an invisible magnetic perfume. People sense it instantly, even without consciously knowing what it is or where this magnetic attractiveness comes from. You also develop a far greater and more refined ability to choose consciously. Instead of gratefully clinging to any crumb of male attention that comes your way, you begin to be naturally selective and discerning. You quickly recognize when someone truly values and respects you versus when someone just wants your company out of convenience, boredom, or need. And this precious ability to choose automatically protects you from superficial, unbalanced, or emotionally destructive relationships. The woman who becomes truly unforgettable also becomes profoundly free. Free from the anxious need for constant approval. Free from the paralyzing fear of being alone. Free from the chronic anxiety of not being enough, interesting enough, or valuable enough. And this inner freedom is magnetically attractive because it's so rare to find someone who's truly comfortable, secure, and happy in their own skin. The most beautiful and significant thing is that when you become this authentic and empowered version of yourself, you naturally attract people who can recognize, value, and honor your authenticity. The kind of man who's genuinely fascinated by a real, whole, interesting, and complete woman. The kind of deep, meaningful, and transformative connection you've always dreamed of having and always knew you deserved. I'm going to leave you with a simple but profoundly powerful practice that can completely transform your energy in the coming days. For the next 7 days, commit to dedicating at least 20 minutes each day to doing something that's exclusively and completely yours. Something that gives you genuine pleasure, that connects you authentically with yourself, that reminds you and honors who you are beyond all the social roles you play. It could be writing a few pages about how you're feeling, without censorship or judgment. It could be walking without a specific destination, just contemplatively observing the world around you with curious eyes. It could be preparing a special and delicious meal just for yourself, as if you were lovingly hosting a dear friend. It could be freely dancing to music that makes you feel alive and connected, even if it's alone in the privacy of your home. The key is to consciously create this sacred space where you're not performing for anyone, not trying to be useful or pleasing to other people, just being you in all your complexity, beauty, and authentic humanity. During this transformative week, observe carefully how you feel in your relationships. Notice if you're able to be more present in conversations, more comfortable in natural silences, more honest about your own needs and boundaries. Don't force anything at all. Just observe with loving curiosity and allow the changes to happen organically. The unforgettable woman isn't an impossible fantasy. She's a real and concrete possibility that lives dormant within you. She's that part of you who always knew intuitively that you're worth so much more than scraps of attention, who always knew you deserved to be loved for who you are, not for what you do or don't do. She's the woman who doesn't need to chase desperately because she knows her own natural magnetism. She's the woman who isn't afraid of her own depth because she understands that it's exactly that depth that makes her unique and special. You don't need to become a completely different person. You need to courageously become more yourself. And when that happens with authenticity, you won't just become unforgettable to him. You'll become unforgettable to yourself. And that perhaps is the greatest and most important achievement of all.